Hello everyone, my name is Kate Marshall. The name of this channel is called Inked Paper Art, and today is day 47 of 365 days of junk journal ideas. It's a project I started on January 1st. It's one video, it's a 15-minute short video every day showing you how to make something for junk journals, ephemera, how to make a junk journal, how to decorate a junk journal. So today's day 47, we're going to make a fabric masterboard. You know how we have masterboards that we make out of paper for junk journals? Well, I'm going to show you how to make a fabric masterboard. So first thing first, you're going to want some cotton fabric. This can be recycled cotton that you've cut off of like a stained tablecloth or something like that. It could be brand new fabric like I have. It doesn't matter. You're going to want to pick out some inks in your favorite kind of colors, whatever kind of color works for the theme of the journal that you're planning on making. I am going to use weathered wood distress ink, speckled egg distress oxide. I have archival here. I'm not sure I'm going to use it because it is very black. And I'm going to use vintage photo oxide and scorched timber. So I'm working in a blue and neutral color journal right now, so that's kind of my color palette. I pulled a variety of stamps, lots of Tim Holtz, some regular backgrounds. I have some that I'm planning on using as backgrounds and some that I'm planning on using as focal points. Lots of scripty things in the background, some bees and little labels and things to decorate with later. Let's go ahead and get started working on the base layer of our masterboard. We're going to stamp in the lightest colors. So these three are the lightest colors. We're going to stamp in the lightest colors first. And so you just want to have your fabric flat on a surface, and you don't need to worry about using archival or stays on. Even though we're stamping on fabric, we're not going to wash this. It's going to be cut into a journal card or something in the end. So we're not going to wash it. We don't need to worry about that. If you have it and you want to use it, go ahead. But if you don't have it and all you have are distress inks or regular inks, go ahead and use regular inks. So first things first, we're going to stamp the background layers for our masterboard. And the way that I like to do it is I like to stamp several different patterns in the background. So I'm going to work on stamping, inking up this kind of, I don't know what Tim Holtz calls it, a damask pattern kind of stamp. So I'm going to ink that up as good as I can do it. And you don't need to worry about perfect stamping. This is not a perfect stamping exercise. This is literally just getting a background layer down on your fabric. And you can see that I'm just going to stamp wherever I get it. I'm not worried about lining it up. I'm not worried about, if I miss little bits of it, I don't care. This is the background layer. And honestly, the more messy that you can do it, the better it looks. So there's that. And we're going to do several of these. So I'm just going to get ink on here. And then I'm going to stamp a couple of them. And, I'm going to place some over here, some over there, some everywhere. And so there's that. When stamping on fabric especially, give your stamp a minute to sit on the fabric and just let that ink absorb. It's a little bit different than stamping on paper. When you stamp on paper, you can pretty much pick it up right away and not stress about it. But, when you're having fabric, it needs to absorb that ink a little bit. So we're stamping a background layer on our fabric. And I'm going to do one more of these and we're going to move on to a different stamp. If you want to put your stamps on a block, you can. It's not really important because, again, the more messy the stamping is on the background layer, the better it actually looks. So I'm going to do one more here. And this is just a partial one where I'm getting some of it. And then I'm going to come here and get some of it. And then probably whatever is left over here. And that's what we got for that one. And this last stamp is literally just to clean all the ink off of my stamp. And so that's what we got there. And now we're going to move on. That was weathered wood distress ink. We're going to move on and do vintage photo oxide. So I'm going to use a stamp that looks a little bit like ledger. And so I'm going to use this in one area. And if you notice, I'm just kind of hitting and missing with my ink. I don't want a perfect impression. I don't want this whole square. I just want little bits of it. So I'm just going to get what I get and pick it up. And then I'm going to do a second stamping right here. and get what I get. I didn't re-ink. And there we go. See how it's just naturally skipping? That's what I want. I don't want this perfect square outline. So I'm going to ink this one more time, just randomly. Wherever the ink pad decides to deposit ink is good enough for me. And then we're going to ink again. And so this time I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to get a little bit here, and I'm going to get a little bit there, a little over here. And I think we're good with this one. Now I'm just going to clean off whatever is on here, making sure that, you know, I've got a little bit at the top, a little bit at the bottom. So the goal is to have your fabric completely covered by the time we're done. So I'm pretty happy with that. You can see I'm stamping completely sideways. It's just how the fabric fits on my desk right now, so don't stress about that part of it. Okay, so next I have this French script stamp. And so I'm just going to get a little bit of ink on it. I'll show you the back side here in a second. Got a little bit of ink on it. It's one of Tim Holtz stamps, and it's just some French handwriting basically. And again, I just want little bits of it. Just wherever it happens to deposit is good for me. And so there we go. We've got just about enough. There's a little open space here or there that I can fill in. And I think we're pretty good there. I've got basically a whole base layer just about over everything. If there's some open space, it's okay. I'm not too worried about it at this point. Next, I want to start stamping my focal points. And so I've picked out scorched timber to stamp my focal points in. And I'm going to use this guy here, just a little Tim Holtz stamp. So let me get some ink on him. And we're going to stamp him on. Now I am going to be choosy about where I want to stamp him. Now I am stamping sideways. You'll stamp normal, you know, left to right at home. So I'm just going to pick and choose where I want him. Okay, so I think he would go right here pretty good. And then I'm going to press him down. And because he's a focal point, I'm going to be kind of careful about pressing him all the way down and letting him sit there for a moment. And I do like the scorched timber better than like a super dark black ink, just because this is a vintage looking fabric collage. So there we go. And I think one would look good here. I'm going to do it right here actually. And so there's that. And so you can repeat your stamps because you're not going to use this whole piece. I mean, you could turn this into a journal cover. You're basically making your own printed fabric, but I'm going to be tearing this up, and I have another project that I will be doing with it. So let's do one of these down here. I'm going to do it here. And then I've got a different focal point. So there's that guy. And then let's move to this rose. This rose right here, he's a little bit bigger. Am I going to fit him on there? I'm going to keep going with the same one because I might not be able to fit him on. So that's okay. We're going to keep going with this one. And so I'm just laying it down backwards and stamping my ink pad on there, getting a good amount of ink because it's my focal point. And so now I don't want to get my sleeve in my ink. Get it on there and press it and just let it sit for a minute. There we go. And maybe one more, and then we're going to tear this up. I want to add a little kind of, you know, like we do like a label or some numbers or something like that. One more right here. Now you will have some leftover bits, just like we have scraps, you know, with paper. You will have leftover bits of your fabric masterboard too. And those little leftover bits, because they just have a little bit of the stamping here or there, sometimes the leftover bits are my favorite part of a project. I think that the leftover bits sometimes are even more pretty than the actual things that you intended. Sometimes you just get some little surprises, right? And so for these ones here, I have a block, and I'm just going to stick this on the block, and I'm going to ink that up. And these ones, I just want little bits of too. You know, it's kind of like a background part. And so I'm just kind of stamping it here, there, and everywhere. And so I'm not worried about it being perfectly straight up and down. I just want it here or there. It's kind of like a postage stamp to me. That's the way I use these little stamps. These stamps are Sam Poole. And so there's those ones. That's her French stamp. What does she call it? French, I don't know what she calls them. They're kind of French marks. And she's got a whole set of those. I don't think it's available anymore. You're going to have to look. Every time I've tried to link it, it was not available. So now this one is a number. And so I do want to make sure that I try to get my number straight. So it's just a little number 48. This is her dates from the past. And I'm not super worried about it, but I am going to try to somewhat get it going the right direction. And so you can see I've added all different manner of things on my stamp. We'll do one up here. You can continue with this little stamp project until your whole fabric is covered if you want. You make it as busy or as open as you want the pattern to be. You're in control of that. And so I think I've got enough numbers. Maybe one more. Maybe one right up here somewhere. There we go. Okay, so we've done that. I think we're pretty good, although I do have this little bee and I like to use this little bee. So I'm going to do a couple little bees. Now the little bees, they're kind of nice because anywhere where you didn't get like, you know, enough pattern, you can do a little bee and it just fills in. So you're going to have some spaces where you have a little bit of open, like, you know, when we're done and we tear this up, we're going to have some extra fabric. And so the little bee, if you have one of those left over, he just becomes little pieces to use as, you know, embellishments for other projects. I think we've got enough. I don't really see any super open area. So I'm going to call that one good. And then we're going to tear him up. Just like when you cut your masterboard up, now we're going to cut up our fabric masterboard. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tear off the piece of fabric that we have stamped on, and it's just going to make it a little bit more manageable for me. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to leave a little bit of room. So if you haven't ever torn fabric before, you just take your scissors and do a little snip and then pull. And it just tears, and it tears in a straight line as long as it is, you know, a kind of woven cotton fabric. So here is our masterboard. This is our stamped fabric masterboard. And so from here, we need to cut it up just like you would flip it over and you would cut it into journal cards or tags or whatever if you were making a paper masterboard. Well, this one we're going to look at when we tear because we do want to try to salvage our pieces, right? And so I'm going to cut it to where I can get my focal points, which my focal points were these flowers. So I'm going to try to get some of those. I might position it where I can get the number, and then other places we're just going to have little scraps like this. So I know from right here, I'm going to tear it right there. And so you're going to tear where you can see that you need to stop. So like I need to stop right here so that I can then tear out this one. So then I'm going to cut over here. And so that's just going to leave me a little piece here. Perfect. And I'm going to tear there. And I stopped because we have a second row of flowers up here. So there we go. Then I'm going to spin. I'm going to do this last one over here. This is a really big piece. So we're actually going to make a small little one here. So right now, just envision I'm cutting up my tags and my journal cards because that's basically what I'm doing. Okay, and then we're going to go sideways like this, and we're going to tear it here, and we have that little guy there, and we'll reveal all of them later even though we can kind of see what we're going to get. And we're going to snip again and tear there. We just have that little string hanging on. There we go. So there's that one. And then this one, I think we are going to tear that number right there. And I think we're good. We just tore a bee in half, but that's all right. I can live with it. Just like when you cut a masterboard, sometimes, you know, you get parts of things. It's okay. Nothing's wasted. So there we go. I have most of the bee. And so then we're going to do the same thing across the top. So this time I'm going to cut a little bit bigger of a piece. And we're going to work with just this little one that we started with. That's pretty good, in all honesty. I might leave that one just as it is. And then we have these two flowers here. Remember I said the flowers were my focal point. So I'm just going to go pretty much straight up the middle there. Okay, so this is what we ended up with. So this would be like a journal card, right? And then I will show you how to use them all. And so this would be like a journal card. So this is what we ended up with. I love the weathered wood in the background with the vintage photo and then the scorched timber over top. It is amazing. I love that color combination. I will be using it again in the future. This one here, and so when you tear your fabric, you do kind of have to straighten it back up. It's just that the threads get tight, but don't worry about it. I like the torn edge when I use these. So here's another one. We have some bees. We have the French stamp from Sam Poole. These bees are from Red Door. And then this is Tim Holtz. And the background ledgery stamp, that was from Amazon. And this stamp here, the damask, is Tim Holtz. And then here's that one. It's very, very cute. I even like the salvage edge over here with the fringe. So I'm going to try to find a project where I can save that. And then we have some little bits from the bottom section. The little bits are always fun to play with. So right here, this is the perfect scrap for the project we'll be doing tomorrow. We're going to use all of these fabric pieces tomorrow in another video because there was no way I was going to fit my whole project into one 15-minute video today. So I'm going to use all these fabric pieces and do fabric collage journal cards where we actually collage all of our stamped masterboard fabric down with other elements and make journal cards. So make sure that you tune back in, subscribe, and click that notification bell so that you can be notified of tomorrow's video. It'll be out in the morning. I love this piece. Look at this bee. We've got that number 48 at the top from Sam Poole. The bee, we've got all that beautiful background, and then this French stamp from Sam Poole. Beautiful. So tune back in tomorrow. My video loads every morning, so it'll be, I've already filmed it by the time you're going to see it. So obviously, but I'm just saying I'm going to film it right after this, and it'll be there for you guys in the morning. So I'm going to continue working with these and use them all up and show you the finished project in tomorrow's video. We're going to make it together, I guess. Let's just say that. So stamp out your fabric, create a stamped fabric collage masterboard, and have it on hand for tomorrow so that you can craft with me. So this one right here, I know right away that I'm just going to want to snip it in half. And then I'm going to end up with two small little embellishments. They're so cute. You could just use this right in a cluster right now. But tomorrow we're going to make a whole project with this. So get your masterboard ready. Get your fabric stamped masterboard ready. We all have stamps. We all have ink pads. And you can probably find some white fabric or off-white fabric. Tear up a pillowcase, whatever you got to do, right? All right, guys, I will let you go. I will see you guys tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed stamped fabric collage masterboards today. All right, guys, have a great day. Bye.